Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So we managed to save this data here, but if we now refresh the page, you see that that data is gone, even though the data is there in the database. So how do we read back this data and put it in the right place? Now, the thing here is, if we come to let me close that. If we come to the course, the view files here, and let's go to courses view. This is where the JavaScript resides that reads the information we need. So let's see here. We have the handle result function here, which is all good. And what else do we need here? Okay, send data, handle result, that's cool. And finally, we have this alert here. Okay. Show any errors, clear all errors. All right, this is all good. This is load tab content, do stuff after tab is loaded. Okay. So this is the part right here. After the tab is loaded, we want to do stuff, but we also want to read. We are doing this load inputs here, right? So I think we can put, we can try and put things in the load input, right? Wait a minute. Okay, so this is good. Save. Okay, so if the return data was an object like this one, then we can check the data type and do something to that. Actually, we don't need this alert anymore. Let me mute that. And yeah, so what I would do is let's grab this if statement. After save, this is where we come to. This is gonna be a toughie. So what I want to do is that once we finish loading the inputs here, then we bring some data in. The load inputs thing here, let me check a second, but we still need an if statement here. So let's put an else here real quickly and do that. So if data type is, instead of save, this one should be, let's say, we'll call this one read or get meta. That's what we'll call it. Yeah, I think that will do. Get meta will be fine. And then from there, we can try and see these object errors. What else can we send? Data type and actual data. So here then we will grab some data and do something with it. Okay, so load inputs instead should do something else. Instead of just looping through, I think we should call load inputs after the data has been received. So from here, instead of let's see, window object name dot load inputs, replace the tab, load inputs. I think load inputs should carry the data that comes from here. If there is none, then it will load in a specific way. Okay, let's figure this out very quickly. So let's go to the load inputs part here and see what it does for now. So this is what it does. Load inputs is a function, and then it will just loop through and add items accordingly. Okay, so that's fine for this one. So let's start with the inputs for this. So first of all, the load inputs doesn't get any object here. So what I would do is I'll just say, I'll call this one, let's hope data is not used in this function anywhere. So let's call it data. But then we can say is equal to, and then let's put an empty, this could be an object. Let's put an empty object like that. Okay. So if it's empty, this is what we do. Okay. But then if it's not, we do something else. So let's just check for a second and say if the data is empty. So if data dot length is equal to 0, that's how we know that it's empty. Let's duplicate that and do that. Then we do this. We do the normal thing. So we'll start with one section first, the students learn. And then else. Okay, here we'll just have an alert and say not empty. Okay, just so we know that we are on the right track. Okay, cool. So now when we are sending load inputs, we should add this, or if not, it will be empty. So that's fine. So we load inputs from there. Now the thing is, yeah, this will get very confusing very quickly. Okay, so here we haven't given anything. So if we try and refresh the page now, things should work as they always have. Oh, so it says not empty. Oh, wait a minute. But why? Data is equal to, wait a minute, alert data. What does it have? I want to see. Object, okay. Why? Console.log always shows more information than this. So let's come back here. Let's refresh. Not empty. Why is it saying not empty? Okay, so there's an object here. Okay. Okay, maybe this was the wrong choice. Let's put an array of objects. That should work better, I guess. Okay, so it did work better. So an array is better. Okay, so if there is some object with items, let's use that as the loop thingy. So let me copy this. Let me just put that here. I'll leave that not empty thingy. And then I'll just say intended learners.minimum inputs. I don't want to set this to something. I'll just say, let's just say let max is going to be equal to, let's grab the data dot length. Okay, so data dot length, so that we only loop as many times as there is data and add inputs with actual data there. Okay, so here we have a placeholder, just fine. We have a name, but then we can add a value as well. So let's add value in this case. So this is the advantage of making things organized like that. We can just add more data as we need. So the value will be data. Let's copy this because I is going to be looping this many times, max times. Okay, and then we're just going to get data I, whatever the data is at that time. So let's put a comma there. Okay, cool. I think I can put a comma at the end as well without a problem. So we've just added this thing to send into the add new thing so that we can still grab it from there and add it as a value. So we already knew how to add a name, how to add a placeholder, etc., etc. Now we're just adding an extra thing which will contain the value. Okay, so that's good. Now the thing is, how do we grab this, right? How do we get that? So let's add one more thingy here where we get the metadata. So let's add one more item. I'll duplicate this and do this. Don't forget the comma here, because these are items in an object. So let's try get underscore meta. Okay, so there we go, get meta. Now, how do we know which meta to get? We can use data type as well, because in the database, we know which data to get using the data type like this. But then at the same time, it's better to just get all the data from this specific course. So maybe we use course ID to read, so that we read all of it. So here we say get meta, and then we expect an ID of the course. So let's just call it course ID like so. That's what we expect. And then the result of this is going to load this, and then we supply whatever object we got from there and put it here. But then as you can see, if we are reading all the data from all data types, we need to be able to know to grab specifically which data we want from there. So here I will put an if statement. As this is looping, we only run this if data type is a thing, right? So I'm just going to say if data dot oh, we're going to have a problem here, will we? Oh no, we won't. If data type, now this data type is from the column in the database, so we're assuming this data is coming from the database. So data type, if it's equal to students underscore learn, then it's the right data here. Otherwise, just continue. So we say if data type is not equal to students learn, then what do we want to do? Continue here. Like, oops. Okay, so meaning it will just continue looping. It won't get to this. It will go back to start looping again. And then if it's not students learn, but if it is, then it will get to this point and actually put that data there. Okay, so that's great. So I'm leaving this so that we know that we do get to this point at some point. All right, so this should work just fine. But let's see how we send data here first. So let's come back here to the any part that I've used send data, so that so as you can see here, there's send data and then there's an object. So what we need is this. So let me just copy all of this, copy that. Let's come down to where we are sending data right here. So get meta like that, paste. Okay, so come back here. So we need a handle result function right in here to handle results on this because this object is the intended learners, to handle results for the intended learners tab. So let's try get meta here, and data type will be get meta, and then we'll send the tab name just in case we need that. But then we don't need this to add to the object. All we need to add now is the course ID. So let's add the course ID so that on that side we know exactly which course ID to look for in the metadata. That's all we really need. Just that it's get meta. We don't really need the tab name, but that's okay, just in case for future use, and then the course ID. And then send data. Once we send, we will receive the data. And then if we do receive the data, we should have a handle result function right here. Now, once we receive, and there's a handle, because we want to put everything compact within this object. So let's just put a handle result function in here as well. So here I'll just say handle result like this. like that. Okay, and this should be the result. Now we already do have a handle result function outside this object, so let's see what it has and copy that information. So back here, this is what it is. So all it does is it creates an object and then checks what the data type is, blah blah blah, which is nice. Yep. So just with here, if the thing is get meta like this, all we do is call the intended learners object and then say dot handle result, like that. Okay, so that it can handle its own result there. And then let's put the result that we got, which is obj dot data, I think. Yeah, instead of data type and all that, whatever the data is, let's put it there. So let's come back here and see the handle result. So since we are in here and we are handling the result, this is where we can now load our inputs. So here I'm just going to say intended learners dot load inputs, like that, and then put whatever the result is in there. Okay, great. So a lot of stops that are happening here, but hopefully you can follow along and see what we are doing. So intended learners result, and once we load, then this object will no longer be empty, and then it should be able to load that. Okay, cool. So hopefully you understand what's going on. Let's recap a little bit. So the first thing that happens is we load the page, and once we load the page, this is the script tag where it starts from. Once we load the page, where is this? Where does everything start from actually? Show tab, tab name. So when we show a tab, after showing it, we send data to read, and then after the read, there's a handle result function. So this sends the data. Every result it gets is sent to the handle result, which is this one. And then since we are on the read, it will read and load things, right? Then once it finishes loading, this is not the save, it's the read. So when we read, we are loading, we are not loading an object actually, so it won't be JSON. So what will happen is it won't pass through here. Instead, it will pass through here. So in this case, we are going to load, so we are going straight to load inputs, which won't work. So instead, we go to get meta, okay, underscore. So when we get to the get meta function, which is within the object, whatever object name we have, get meta. In our case, the object name is intended learners. So let's follow that path down here. So this is the object, and then we go to get meta. That's what we want to run. So that one right here. So we send again. This time the result will be an object, a valid object. So once we get that result, it will redirect it to this handle result function, and this one will now then load inputs. So we can try this, it won't work. Let's come back here, refresh. So it completely didn't work. A few things went wrong, I'm sure. Let's look at the console. Okay, so it's looping through. So it's an infinite loop we've created. So this is not good. Let me come back here again. Move to another page to stop that looping. So why did we create an infinite loop? Let's see. When this intended learner's load input happens, it comes down to here, and then it says add new. That's all. It should end there. But why is it looping continuously? Okay, now going through this to figure out why it's looping like this may take a while. So let me pause the video for a second and then go through it, and I'll explain why it was doing that.